Have you ever had that feeling like you're just going through the motions? Well, today, we're going to dig into a really powerful idea, how to switch off that autopilot and start, actually building a life that feels like it's yours.
It's this quiet little question, but man, is it a big one. You could have the great job, the nice house, all the things you're supposed to want. And then, in a quiet moment, it hits you. Is this really it? And you know what? That's not a sign you failed. It's actually the first sign you're starting to wake up.
And look, that feeling, it's totally real. It's that gap between a life that looks good from the outside and one that actually feels good on the inside. It's like you've checked all the boxes, but when you step back, the picture just feels incomplete.
So what's really going on here? Well, underneath all of it, there's this huge question that's always running in the background of our minds. Why am I here? And whether you realize it or not, your answer to that question is the hidden force shaping almost every big decision you make.
And here's the kicker. If you don't consciously choose an answer for yourself, one gets chosen for you. You just default to living on autopilot, right? You end up following a script that was written by society, or your family, or your culture. And you end up building someone else's idea of a good life, not your own.
So this autopilot mode, it isn't just random. It actually runs on a few pretty common pre-programmed answers. So let's break down the 4 most common scripts that can keep us stuck and prevent us from choosing our own way.
Okay, so take a look at these, because you'll probably recognize them. First, there's the animal answer. We're just here to survive and have kids. Makes sense, right? But it totally fails to explain why we love art, or fall in love, or go out of our way to help a stranger. Then there's the society answer. Just climb the ladder, get the promotion, the bigger house, more status. The only problem? The ladder never, ever ends. You're never done. The feel-good answer is all about chasing the next high, which, let's be honest, is kind of like eating junk food for every meal. It's fun for a second, but it leaves you feeling empty. And finally, you have this more modern idea that nothing matters. And yeah, that can sound pretty depressing, but it can also be incredibly freeing. If there's no script, it means you're the one holding the pen.
But here's the thing. Sooner or later, these autopilot answers, they start to feel a little hollow. We start to get these little hints that they just aren't enough. And that's the wake-up call. And it usually shows up in a few very familiar ways.
Do any of these ring a bell? That deep-down exhaustion from just pretending all the time, or getting that big thing you wanted and feeling nothing. Maybe it's just realizing you don't even know what you like to do anymore. Or that little pang of envy you feel when you see someone who is genuinely, truly excited about their life. Listen, these aren't just bad moods. They're signals. They're telling you it's time for a change.
So the very first step to waking up is this simple but really profound shift. You have to stop looking out at the world and asking, what should I do? And you start looking inward. And you start asking yourself, who am I, really? What do I actually care about?
And the great news is, you are so not alone in asking this. Seriously. For centuries, some of the greatest minds in history have wrestled with this exact same question. So let's take a look at a couple of their most powerful ideas.
You've basically got 2 big schools of thought here. On one side, you have a guy like Aristotle. He believed your purpose is something you discover. It's already inside you, and your job is to grow into the truest version of yourself. Then on the other side, you have the existentialists. They said, nope, life is a blank canvas. You aren't born with a purpose. You create it with every single choice you make.
And then modern psychology comes along and adds this really important piece to the puzzle. What researchers have found again and again is that one of the most reliable ways to feel a sense of meaning is to contribute to something bigger than just yourself. It's that feeling you get when you help your family, or you improve your neighborhood, or you work on a cause that you really believe in.
Okay, so we've talked a lot about the why. Now let's get practical. How you actually do this. The key here is to stop searching for your purpose and start building it. And here's a simple, actionable way to do that.
Think of it like this. Your personal guide to a meaningful life has 3 core parts. You need a compass, a vehicle, and an arena.
All right, first up is your compass. These are your non-negotiables, the 3 to 5 core values that are going to guide your life. Is it honesty, creativity, growth, kindness? These are the principles that will point you north when you're feeling lost.
Next, you need your vehicle. This is your engine, right? It's what moves you forward. And you find it in that sweet spot where 2 things overlap, what you're naturally good at and what you're deeply passionate about, the stuff you do where you just lose all track of time.
And finally, you need your arena. This is where the rubber meets the road.
It's about looking out at the world and finding a need that you actually care about, a problem you can help with, or a community you can serve, using those strengths that you just identified in your vehicle.
And this is so important. The goal here is not to find a job title. It's to find a theme for your life, a guiding principle. So, for example, a theme like, to use my curiosity to help people understand complex ideas, well, that could show up as a teacher, a writer, a YouTuber, or even just as a really good friend.
So how do you make this real every day? First, literally write it down, a clear, exciting sentence. Then, use that sentence as a filter. When a new opportunity comes up, just ask, does this fit? And, most importantly, remember this is a guide, not a prison. Your purpose is allowed to grow and change right along with you. Now, of course, this journey, it's not always going to be a straight line. So it's a really good idea to know what kinds of roadblocks you can expect to hit along the way. You might start thinking your purpose isn't special enough. Or, on the other hand, that your dream is just too big and you get paralyzed. You will absolutely feel the pull of real life. Bills, family, all of it. And maybe the biggest trap of all is when you start comparing your path to what you see someone else doing.
But pushing through those challenges, man, is it worth it? Just think of it like this. A successful life with no meaning is like building a gorgeous house on sand. It might look amazing for a while, but it has no foundation. It can all just wash away. Purpose is the bedrock. It's the solid ground you build your life on.
So, in the end, it all comes down to this. You are here for the reason you choose, and the one you build. The power is completely in your hands to stop sleepwalking and start creating. The only question left is, what will your reason be?